Hey viewers, welcome to African Tales by Afi. Please kindly click the subscribe button to get notified for more amazing stories. A long time ago, in the sunny town of Beano, there lived a young woman named Air. Air was full of dreams and hope. She had a smile that could light up a cloudy sky and a heart that believed in love, the kind of love that made stories magical. One bright morning in the year 1990, Air sat in front of her little house, humming a soft tune, when a postman on a bicycle stopped by. "Letter for Miss Air," he called out cheerfully. Air's heart skipped. "A letter? For me?" "Yes, ma'am." "All the way from a man named Jeffrey Mayer," the postman said, tipping his hat before cycling away. Air clutched the envelope. It smelled faintly of cologne, and the handwriting looked elegant. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. "Dear Air, I have heard so much about your strength and grace. I believe we are meant to build a beautiful life together. Come to me in Beano. I promise you warmth, laughter, and love. Yours, Jeffrey Mayer." Air gasped. "Could this be true?" she whispered. "Could someone really want me like that?" She didn't waste time. Air packed her things, sold her belongings, and said goodbye to her neighbors. "Where are you going, Air?" asked Mom Nkechi, the vegetable seller. "To find love," Air said, eyes sparkling. Everyone waved her off with laughter and blessings, not knowing her journey was about to take a turn. When Air arrived in the bustling town of Beano, she wore her best dress, her hair tied in pretty braids, and her eyes shining with excitement. She waited at the park, just like the letter said. Finally, a tall man in a suit approached her. "Jeffrey Mayer?" Air asked, standing up. He looked her up and down and frowned. "You're Air?" "Yes," she smiled. "It's me. I came just like you asked." Jeffrey scratched his head and sighed. "You're not what I expected." Air's smile faded. "What do you mean?" I thought you'd look different. Taller, maybe." "I don't think this is going to work," he said coldly. The words stabbed Air like thorns. She blinked fast to hold back tears. "You asked me to come. You promised me love." "I made a mistake," he said, turning away. "You should go." Air stood there, her bag by her feet, her heart breaking like glass. That night, Air wandered the strange streets of Beano alone. She had no home, no money, and no one to turn to. The streetlights blinked like tired stars, and the wind blew gently, as if it too were sad for her. "I came looking for love," Air whispered, sitting by a tree. "And now I have nothing." But Air wasn't the kind of girl who gave up. No, her mama had always told her even a bent flower can bloom again. So the next morning, Air wiped her tears, picked up her bag, and looked for work. She found a small room behind a bakery and began offering sewing services. At first, people gossiped. "Isn't that the girl who was dumped by that Jeffrey man?" "Yes, poor thing. Came here chasing love like a movie." But Air just smiled politely and kept working. She sewed beautiful dresses and mended trousers with care. One day, an old woman walked into her sewing shop. "Young lady, you sewed my grandson's school trousers so neatly. Here's a loaf of bread for your kindness." "Thank you, Ma," Er said, bowing. Word spread. People began to respect Er, not for where she came from, but for what she did and who she was becoming. She wasn't the girl who came looking for love anymore. She was Er, the strong, kind woman who stitched her pain into strength. And somewhere between fabric and thread, Er's life began to change in the most unexpected way. Weeks passed, and Er settled into her small room behind the bakery. She worked hard each day, sewing clothes for people in the town of Bino. Her fingers grew calloused from stitching, but her heart, though still sore, began to feel stronger. One sunny afternoon, Er walked down the dusty road to the general store. Her thread had finished, and she needed more to finish Mom and Ketchy's wrapper before the end of the week. As she stepped inside the store, a gentle bell rang above the door. "Good afternoon," Er said softly, brushing dust from her wrapper. Behind the counter stood a man with kind eyes and warm, steady hands. He wore a checkered shirt, slightly rolled at the sleeves, and he smiled the moment he saw her. "Good afternoon, miss. What can I help you with?" he asked. "I'm looking for thread. Strong thread, the kind that doesn't break when you sew thick fabric." "You're in luck," he said, walking around the counter. "I've just got some in this morning. Adam Martin, by the way. I run this store." "Er Jenkins," she replied with a small nod. Adam's eyes lingered a moment, not with judgment, but with curiosity. "Er Jenkins. I've heard that name. You're the lady who sews beautifully, right?" Er blushed. "I try. I'm still learning." "Well," he said, picking out a spool of thread, "you're already better than most. I had a hole in my trousers last week. Tried to fix it myself, ended up stitching it shut entirely." Er chuckled. "Let me know next time. I'll help you." Adam handed her the thread. "How much do I owe you?" she asked. He waved it off. "First spool's on me. A welcome gift." Er blinked. "Oh, no, I can't accept that." "Then consider it payment for the smile you just gave me," he said with a playful grin. She couldn't help but laugh. That was how it started. Er returned to the store the following week, and the next, and the next. Each time, Adam greeted her with a cheerful voice, a book recommendation, or sometimes, a warm cup of tea on chilly mornings. One morning, Er came into the shop carrying a basket of hand-sewn napkins. "I thought you might like these. For the store. They're simple, but strong." Adam took one, admiring the neatness of her stitches. "Er, these are perfect," he said sincerely. "You know, you have a gift, not just with your hands, but with your heart." Er looked down shyly. "You don't have to say that." "But I want to," he said. "You've made something out of nothing. That's something most people never learn how to do." They sat outside the shop on a wooden bench. The sky was painted with soft orange clouds, and the scent of cinnamon bread from the bakery floated in the air. "Can I ask you something?" Adam said after a pause. Of course. Why did you come to Beano? Air hesitated. A man invited me. Promised me love. But when I got here, he turned me away. Said I wasn't what he expected. Adam was quiet for a moment, then spoke gently. Well, then he was a fool. Air looked up at him, startled. I mean it, he said. Because if he couldn't see the strength in you, the goodness, then he wasn't worth your time. A soft breeze lifted Air's scarf. Her heart beat a little faster. You don't even know me, Adam, she said. He smiled. I know what I see. A woman who stood up after falling. That tells me everything I need to know. From that day, their friendship grew stronger. Adam brought Air old storybooks from the back of his shop, and Air shared her mother's fabric scraps with him, teaching him how to thread a needle. They laughed together. They learned about each other. And little by little, Air found herself smiling more, waking with lighter steps, and feeling something warm where her heart used to ache. She wasn't sure what it was yet. But it felt a lot like hope. The wind carried a chill that morning, even though the sun peeked through the clouds. Air sat on her front steps, a cup of warm tea between her hands and a small basket of old fabric beside her. She had found the basket the night before, buried beneath a wooden trunk of memories, her mother's fabric pieces, each one with its own story. There was the deep blue cloth her mother wore to the market, the golden one from her father's naming ceremony, and the soft pink from Air's childhood wrapper. As she touched each piece, an idea bloomed in her mind like a flower after rain. She would sew a quilt. Not just any quilt, but a piece of her past, stitched together with the life she was slowly building. Something warm to wrap around herself on nights when the world felt cold again. Later that afternoon, Air walked into the general store with a roll of thread under her arm. Adam looked up from behind the counter, where he had been organizing tins of tea. You look like someone on a mission, he said with a grin. I am, Air said, holding up the thread. I'm making a quilt. Adam raised his eyebrows. A quilt? Yes, Air nodded, excited. From old scraps my mother saved. I want to stitch them together, to remember where I came from, and to feel like I still have a piece of home. Adam smiled. That sounds beautiful. Can I see it when you're done? You can help, Air offered shyly. His eyes lit up. I'm hopeless with a needle, you know that. Then you'll learn, she replied, already laughing. That evening, Adam sat beside Air at her small table. She handed him a square of red cloth and a needle already threaded. Try to follow the line, she instructed, gently guiding his hand. Adam squinted, his tongue poking out slightly as he focused. This line? Right here? Air giggled. Yes, that one. You're not fixing a fence, Adam. Be gentle. They laughed together, their shoulders touching slightly. So, what does this red square mean? Adam asked. That's from my father's shirt, Air replied softly. He wore it every Sunday. He would sing with his eyes closed. Loudly. And this one? Adam held up a green patch. From my mother's apron. She used to bake meat pies every festival day. Adam leaned back. It's like a story in stitches. Air smiled. Exactly. Every patch means something. And now, I want to add this. She pulled out a plain cream-colored piece and handed it to Adam. This doesn't look old, he said. It's not, Air replied. It's from the cloth I bought last week. The day you gave me tea. The first day I laughed in a long time. Adam looked at the patch, then at her. Air. She met his gaze, her voice soft. I want to remember this too. Not just the pain. The healing. The people who made it better. For a long moment, they said nothing. Then Adam reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. Thank you, he whispered. For letting me be a part of your story. A few days later, Air finished the quilt. She walked to the store, carrying it carefully in her arms. Adam stood at the door, a broom in hand. When he saw her, he beamed. You finished it. I did, Air said. I want you to have it. Adam blinked. Me? Air nodded. You were there for the stitches that mattered most. She opened the quilt, showing him the final row. At the corner, she had sewn his name, Adam Martin, in careful letters. I don't know what tomorrow holds, she said. But today, you make me feel seen. And that matters. Adam took the quilt, running his hand over the fabric. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever met, he said quietly. Inside and out. Air's eyes welled with tears. Not because she was sad, but because for the first time in a long while, she felt whole. The town of Bendel was alive with preparations for the Amartan Harvest Dance, the most awaited event of the year. Colorful ribbons danced in the warm breeze, baskets of roasted groundnuts lined shopfronts, and laughter filled the air like music. Children skipped through the streets holding corn husk dolls, while women displayed bowls of steaming yam porridge and fresh fruits by their stalls. Air watched from her window, hands folded over her sewing basket. Her little cottage smelled of lavender soap and fabric starch. She had sewn a soft gown weeks before, a gown she never imagined she'd wear. It was pale lilac, with tiny hand-stitched flowers near the hem. She picked it up and held it against herself. Just for one evening, she whispered. Just to watch the children twirl, and maybe to feel like I belong. Her heart fluttered with nerves. What if they stared? What if they whispered? But another voice inside her answered, You've already walked through fire, Air. You can walk through a dance. The Amartan Harvest Dance was held near the old schoolhouse, where lanterns hung like glowing fruit from the trees, and the scent of fried plantain filled the air. A small wooden platform had been built for dancing. Elders sat on long benches with fans in their hands, and families gathered in joyful chatter. Music floated in the air from a string band with violins, drums, and a tall man with a flute. Air stood quietly near the edge, her lavender dress swaying with the wind. Children giggled as they spun in little groups. Couples laughed, shoes tapping the floorboards. She smiled softly, blending into the background, just grateful to witness the joy. Then, she heard a familiar voice. "Miss Jenkins," came the warm tone. She turned around, startled. Standing before her was Adam Martin, neater than ever in a crisp white shirt, his sleeves rolled just enough to show his strong forearms, and a sunflower tucked in his shirt pocket. "I hoped I'd find you here," he said with a smile. "I didn't think I'd dance," Air said quickly. "I only came to watch." Adam took a small step closer. "That's all right. But if you did change your mind, I was hoping to ask you first." She blinked. "Me?" He grinned. "Unless there's another beautiful woman in a lavender dress nearby." She laughed nervously. "Adam, people are looking." "Let them look," he said, offering his hand. "You've earned this moment, Air. Come on, just one dance." She glanced around at the murmurs in the crowd. She could feel the weight of their eyes. "That's the woman from the north. Didn't the mayor send her away? She's dancing with him?" Air froze. Adam leaned in and whispered, "Ignore them. They don't know your story. But I do. And I'm still standing here." Her heart swelled. She reached for his hand. "All right," she said, voice trembling. "Just one dance." As the musicians began a soft waltz, Adam led Air onto the dance platform. His hand rested lightly on her waist, hers rested on his shoulder. The world slowed. The whispers faded. "You're lighter on your feet than I imagined," he teased gently. "I haven't danced in years," Air admitted. "I feel like I'm floating and falling all at once." "That's what happens when you're dancing with the right person." She looked up at him, the golden lantern light making his eyes shimmer like honey. Her cheeks warmed. They danced for one song. Then another. And another. Until the moon rose high and the stars peeped through the night sky. After the music paused, Adam led her outside to the quiet stretch behind the schoolhouse where wildflowers grew freely. The night breeze carried the scent of sugarcane and soil. "Air," Adam began, "I wasn't looking for love when I met you. I was just running a store, waiting for each day to pass." Air turned to him. "And I wasn't looking for healing. I didn't think I'd ever smile again." He took both her hands in his. "But then you walked in with your quiet strength, your brave eyes, and I started hoping again." She blinked back tears. "I don't know what tomorrow brings," she whispered, "but tonight, I feel like myself again. The me I thought I lost." Adam smiled. "Then let's not wait for tomorrow. Let's just hold on to this night." He leaned forward, gently touching his forehead to hers. The kiss that followed was soft and patient, like a promise spoken in silence. Later, as Air lay on her bed, staring up at the ceiling beams of her tiny home, she hugged her quilt to her chest. Her heart no longer ached the way it used to. She wasn't forgotten. She wasn't broken. She was Air. And she was finally free to dance, to feel, to love. One full year after the Martin harvest dance, the little town of Dunswell woke to a golden morning. The birds sang like they had been practicing for days. Trees stood proudly in full bloom. The scent of ripe mangoes and fresh rain filled the air. And on the hill behind the general store, something wonderful was about to happen. Er stood before a mirror in her small home, dressed in a simple white gown she'd sewn herself. Her hair was tied back with a blue ribbon, and her hands, once busy with endless work, were now still, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. Outside, townsfolk had gathered. Old Mr. Jonah, who once looked down on her, had brought a wooden bench from his porch. Little Martha, who once patched a doll's dress for, was scattering petals with glee. Even Miss Ruth, who had once whispered with the others, now stood at the front row, clutching a handkerchief. Peeked out her window and took a deep breath. Her heart danced just like her feet had at the harvest dance. "It's really happening," she whispered to herself. A gentle knock came at the door. "You ready, sunshine?" came a familiar voice. It was Adam Martin, standing there in his best shirt, though the buttons were a little crooked, and a piece of hay clung to his collar. He held out his hand. Smiled. "You're not supposed to see me before the vows." "I couldn't help it," Adam grinned. "I thought if I saw you first, maybe I wouldn't cry like a fool in front of the whole town." Giggled, stepping out to take his arm. "Well, if you cry, I'll cry too." "Then we'll cry together," he said softly. "That's what life's for, isn't it? Sharing the tears and the laughter." The ceremony was held beneath the tallest tree on the hill, with the blue sky as their roof and the birds as their choir. No fancy decorations. No grand music. Just the sound of wind rustling through leaves and the quiet joy of hearts finally at peace. Reverend Clement stood before them with a kind smile. "Today, we gather to witness not just a union," he said, "but the blooming of two souls who dared to believe in second chances." Adam turned to "Before I met you," he said, voice steady, "I thought love was something that only happened to others. I was content, but I wasn't full. Then you walked into my store, holding a basket of thread and courage. And I knew." Er's voice trembled as she replied. "When I came to this town, I was empty. Rejected. Lost. But your kindness, your patience, you helped me stitch the pieces of my heart back together. And now, I'm whole." The crowd sighed. Someone sniffled loudly. It might have been Miss Ruth. "You may kiss the bride," Reverend Clement said gently. Adam leaned in, brushing Er's cheek with one hand. Their kiss was soft, sweet, and full of all the days they had waited for this moment. The crowd erupted into cheers. Even Mr. Jonah gave a hearty clap. Later that afternoon, a celebration bloomed in front of the general store. Tables overflowed with fried plantain, grilled corn, sweet bread, and cups of fresh zobo. Music played, children danced, and everyone had a story to tell about how they always knew those two would end up together. But for and Adam, the best part was when they slipped away from the crowd to the back of the hill. There, in the tall grass where it all began, they danced again, barefoot, with only the breeze and birds watching. Adam held her close. "Do you ever think about him? The one who sent you away?" Thought for a moment. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But not with sadness anymore. Without that moment, I wouldn't have come here. I wouldn't have met you. Adam rested his forehead against hers. Then I guess even broken paths can lead to beautiful places. Yes, Air whispered. Yes, they can. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with orange and gold, Air looked at her new home, her new life, and the man who saw her not for her past, but for her strength and heart. And with her head held high and joy bubbling in her chest, she knew. She was no longer the woman who arrived with a suitcase full of pain. She was Air. And she was finally home. Hello tribe, hope we enjoyed today's story. Please kindly put what you've learned in the comments section. Please remember to hit the like button, share this to your friends and family as well as subscribe to see you on the next one. Bye.